In 2008, Zimbabwe's inflation hit an unbelievable 79.6 billion% per month, making everyday essentials like bread and milk nearly impossible to buy. The economy collapsed, unemployment soared, and even a $100 trillion note couldn't cover basic needs. How does a country end up in such an extreme crisis? And could it happen again? Let's explore the world's worst cases of hyperinflation and what led to these economic disasters. What exactly is hyperinflation? Hyperinflation is when prices spiral out of control, increasing at rates higher than 50% per month. This extreme form of inflation drastically reduces the value of money, making everyday goods unaffordable. Imagine buying a candy bar today for $1, only to find it costs $2 or even more tomorrow. In these situations, prices can rise so quickly that a loaf of bread might cost one amount in the morning and a higher amount by the afternoon. This occurs when governments print more money than the economy can justify, often to pay off debts or finance wars. Instead of stabilizing the economy, this floods an already fragile market with currency, setting off a cycle of rising prices and eroding trust in the value of money. But what does hyperinflation actually look like? During World War II, Greece's economy was devastated by Axis occupation, leading to severe shortages and financial mismanagement. As the war dragged on, the Greek government began printing massive amounts of money to pay off its mounting debts. This uncontrolled money printing led to hyperinflation, where prices doubled approximately every 4 days. For the average Greek citizen, this meant that the cost of basic necessities like bread and milk soared out of reach almost overnight. People found themselves needing more and more money just to buy the same items they could afford days before. The drachma, Greece's currency at the time, became practically worthless, leading to widespread poverty and desperation. The situation in Greece was dire, but it was not unique. Germany, during the Weimar Republic, faced a similar crisis that was even more dramatic in scale. Stay tuned as we explore what happened in Germany and how it compares to Greece's economic disaster. After World War I, Germany experienced hyperinflation, an economic disaster caused by massive money printing to meet the country's obligations for reparations and war debts. Following its defeat, Germany was burdened with monumental reparations as demanded by the Treaty of Versailles. The Weimar Republic, the German government at the time, opted to print money rather than raise taxes or find other revenue sources to finance these payments. This led to the rapid depreciation of the German mark. As a result, prices began to skyrocket at an alarming rate. By 1923, prices were doubling every few days, and ordinary Germans found that their savings had become almost worthless overnight. At the height of this crisis, even basic items like bread cost millions or even billions of marks. People resorted to pushing wheelbarrows filled with money just to buy groceries, and banknotes were used as wallpaper or fuel because their paper was worth more than the currency itself. In November 1923, the exchange rate plummeted to 4.2 trillion marks to $1. This period of economic chaos and societal despair severely undermined the Weimar Republic, leading to political instability in Germany. But believe it or not, Germany's crisis wasn't the worst. Let's explore who holds that title. How did hyperinflation devastate Yugoslavia? In the early 1990s, Yugoslavia was a nation in turmoil. The breakup of the country, marked by intense political instability and civil wars, alongside international economic sanctions, wreaked havoc on its economy. The Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, comprising Serbia and Montenegro, faced a drastic decline in industrial output, a severe drop in GDP, and a massive budget deficit as the government struggled to support war efforts and social programs. To cope with these economic pressures, the government resorted to printing money in large quantities, which led to one of the worst cases of hyperinflation in history. Between 1992 and 1994, Yugoslavia experienced hyperinflation that peaked at an astonishing rate of 313 million% in January 1994. Prices doubled every 34 hours, making the dinar almost worthless. Imagine waking up to find that the money in your pocket could only buy half of what it could the previous day. Everyday life became incredibly difficult for the citizens. People resorted to bartering and relying on the black market to secure basic necessities. The dinar, the national currency, was so devalued that it was often discarded or used as scrap paper, and workers were sometimes paid in goods instead of money. This economic chaos was only stabilized when the government, under Dragoslav Avramović's monetary reform program, introduced a new currency and implemented strict monetary policies. However, by then, the damage was done, and the social and economic fabric of Yugoslavia was severely weakened. But there's still one hyperinflation event that surpasses even Yugoslavia's. Let's head to Zimbabwe. The 2-year period of hyperinflation in Zimbabwe, peaking between 2007 and 2008, was the result of political turmoil, poor economic decisions, and misguided monetary policies. The economy had been in decline for years, largely due to controversial land reforms beginning in the early 2000s, which caused a significant drop in agricultural output. Coupled with involvement in the Congo War and widespread corruption, this hollowed out Zimbabwe's economic foundation. Unable to service its debts and pay government salaries and war expenses, the Zimbabwean government resorted to excessive money printing. This drastically increased the money supply without a corresponding increase in goods and services, leading to runaway inflation. By mid-November 2008, the inflation rate had reached an almost unimaginable 79.6 billion% per month. The hyperinflation was so severe that citizens carried bags of banknotes, and a $100 trillion note couldn't even buy a loaf of bread. As the Zimbabwean dollar collapsed, citizens adapted by using foreign currencies like the US dollar and the South African rand, or even by bartering goods and services. This shift effectively marked the end of the Zimbabwean dollar as a viable currency. Yet, despite the severity of Zimbabwe's crisis, it's not the worst hyperinflation event in history. Next, we'll explore a case that was even more devastating. Could Hungary's hyperinflation be the worst in history? The Hungarian economy was in ruins after WWII, with its infrastructure destroyed and industrial capacity severely diminished. Facing enormous war reparations and the need to rebuild, the Hungarian government disastrously decided to print money at an unprecedented rate, leading to the worst hyperinflation ever recorded. From August 1945 to July 1946, prices in Hungary doubled every 15 hours. At the peak of this hyperinflation, the highest monthly inflation rate reached an astonishing 419 x 10 versus 16%. The Hungarian pengo, the currency at the time, became so worthless that the government had to issue banknotes in denominations as high as 100 quintillion pengo just to keep up with the skyrocketing prices. The situation became so dire that, in August 1946, Hungary had to abandon the pengo and introduced a new currency, the forint, at an exchange rate of 400,000 quadrillion pengo for one forint. This drastic measure was necessary to stabilize the economy and put an end to the hyperinflation that had devastated the country. What lessons can we learn from these cases? The extreme cases of hyperinflation in Hungary, Zimbabwe, and other nations show the devastating consequences of poor economic policies, especially those involving unchecked money printing and fiscal irresponsibility. These examples demonstrate how quickly things can spiral out of control when a government loses control over its monetary policy. Beyond the economic metrics, the human cost of hyperinflation is profound. savings are wiped out, purchasing power is obliterated, and everyday life becomes a struggle for survival. These historical lessons highlight the importance of sound economic management and the dangers of allowing economic crises to escalate unchecked. Could something like this happen again? What do you think? Let us know in the comments. If you found this exploration of hyperinflation fascinating, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts or questions in the comments below.